We're back. We're here at LT 120. I'm here with Peter Contreras, really good friend of mine, another member of the Houstonian, who's going to join the three of us today in talking about how do we get better health and fitness wise. Dr. Fustok, how do we get better health and fitness wise?
We get it through the control of our epigenetic. You see, every one of us is born with genetic makeup, unique genetic makeup that we get from half of it from the mother and half of it from the father. And that we cannot change. But what we can change is changes the expression of the genes that we have in our genetic makeup. How do we change that? Through our actions or inaction, through our behavior, through our food, through our environment. If we change that, we can suppress the genes that we inherited that are bad for us, like heart disease, like high cholesterol, like even Alzheimer. If we can suppress the bad gene and activate the good genes, we can control our destiny.
So if we're going to control our destiny, let's talk about, today it's freezing in Houston, Texas right now. And if it's freezing in Houston, Texas, I'm sure it's freezing all over the country. What did you do when you woke up today? What did you eat today?
I don't eat in the morning. I really don't eat. I got my cup of coffee with a lot of supplements in it, like turmeric, like cinnamon, cream from goat, because we do not. I don't want to put the casein in our food. And I got that, and we went to the club, worked out, and that's what I did this morning.
Peter, what about yourself? What did you do when you woke up?
Well, my take is that I'm a little bit younger. I'm trying to keep fit. I ran the half marathon yesterday, and there's a lot of contradictory information. They say carb up, don't carb up, eat pasta, don't eat pasta, rice, veggies. So I'm trying to get to the place where I'm comfortable with.
So Peter, this is the first time Peter's gone to one of Dr. Fustok's one-on-one lectures that we've done. So tell people what Peter's done wrong already with pasta, and maybe not wrong, but how he could have done it better.
I think what we throughout our carbs and our relying on carb started only 10,000 years ago. Before that, we were not relying on carb, and the carb came from either the wheat, farming or the rice farming in Asia, and carb became the staple of our food. It became even connected to our spiritual being. But when you share carb, a loaf of bread and some salt, it becomes, you create a friendship between two individuals. But the problem with carb, it stimulates the production of insulin. We all know insulin is what gets the carb, the sugar, the glucose from the blood from the intestine into the blood. And that stimulation of insulin over time, we create insulin resistance. And if you create insulin resistance, then you start having problems. The control of our blood glucose is the most important element in our survival. And if you don't control that, you create, and that's what we have right now. We have an epidemic of overweight. And you go around anywhere on this planet, you see people are overweight. Not why? Because the insulin resistance. Insulin resistance will lead to pre-diabetes, and then pre-diabetes will lead to diabetes. We are, until the agricultural revolution, we were relying mostly on vegetables. That's why we went through 4 seasons, and so that's why we shouldn't be relying on. We should go back to the way our body is made. Well, our body is made to digest vegetables.
So Dr. Fustok, how old are you now, Peter?
52.
Peter's 52 years old, just completed a fantastic half marathon. If you were Peter yesterday, before competing in the marathon, what would you have eaten?
I wouldn't have eaten anything other than hydration. and electrolytes.
And so
The reason for that, let me say what the reason for that. Because you need to access fat. In order to access fat, you have to limit what you take, the carb that you take. You have to put yourself 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, ahead of your competition. Like for me, it's like Ironman. You have to limit the intake of glucose or sugars or carbs down to 50 milligram a day in order to be able to access your fat. Every single one of us has a lot of excess of fat. You burn 1 gram of fat, you get 9 calories. You burn 1 gram of carb, you get 4 calories. So it's a high octane food, and that's what you want to access in your body.
So what Peter should have done to perform in a better way, let's go back a week before the half marathon. So we're now the Sunday before the marathon. What would you be eating then?
I would be eating vegetables. If I get up in the
morning, carbs on Dr. Fustok's brain. Dr. Fustok rarely ever touches a bad carb. So let's go through the process of what you would have done.
How about remind the viewers how many Ironmans have you competed in?
I just finished back in November 4th, my 20th Ironman.
Wow.
And that's what, I mean, we have control of our destiny if we do the right things. And I'm talking right now to the young people. Young people think they're indestructible. If you start today as a young person following my instructions and the instructions of most of people who really talk about health, you will very likely, you will not develop high cholesterol at the age of 50. You will not develop high blood pressure at the age of 55. You will not develop diabetes. You will not develop Alzheimer, meaning degenerative neurological conditions, dementia. But if you don't, and you go along with the crowd, and the crowd will take you to the usual, you eat your hamburgers, you eat your steak, you eat your bad cholesterol, then you're in trouble. If you follow what I'm talking about, you will live to be 120 and even beyond.
Can I have another question?
Please.
So the second point that I have that relates, my father, he died of Parkinson's. He was 81. So are you saying that those diseases didn't occur before all this?
No, what I'm saying is, last podcast that we made at the Historian Club, I talked about advanced glycation end product. Advanced glycation end product, meaning whenever any food is really connected with sugar, they have this is what we call non-enzymatic reactions, requires heat. And the guy who really promoted that was a French physician by the name of Claude Millard. Claude Millard in 1912 thought about, because he's a French physician and he wanted, as you know, the French are very proud of their cuisine, and he wanted the French food to taste even better than what it tasted at that time. And he wanted to create browning of the fat, browning of the protein, browning of even the sugar to make the food taste better. Now, since then, we know now browning is bad because you create advanced glycation. What do I mean? Advanced glycation end product. Glycation is the union of sugar with either protein, fat, or with our DNA. And what that does, it creates problems to our, because if that happened in the eyes, you end up with cataract. If that happened in the brain, you end up with Parkinson or dementia. If it's happened in your arteries, you end up with high blood pressure. If it happened in your heart, you end up with heart disease. So That is at the basis of every single non-infectious ailment that we have.
And I think we've discussed this before is that the general public believes that there's an automatic aging process. You don't believe that at all.
I don't believe that. I think through the actions that we take, that we have the ability to take these days, is the ability to age. I mean, we cannot turn the clock back when we were 6, but we can turn the clock back when we were 26 or 36, like in my case. You know, in my case, I wanted one day. I'm 83. I'm going on 84.
But that's
the chronological age.
Right. But how old are you?
Biologically, I'm 43.
So 43 years old. So each one of you that think that you're at the end, you're not at the end. You can turn it around. I myself turned it around on a number of occasions because I become an idiot sometimes and I yo-yo. I go up from 245 pounds down to 190 pounds that I'm at right now. And right now, I feel, I haven't measured myself like Dr. Fustok has, but I feel like I'm playing sports like I did when I was in my mid-50s. And I'm going to continue this journey that I have to get in even better and better shape. Peter, I guarantee you next year, after he's learned from what he has from Dr. Fustok, next year's time in the half marathon will be at least 2-3 minutes less than it was this time. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in 60 seconds. On with LT120. Here's Dr. Fustok.
I'm talking to Peter right now. We're discussing with him his 13.1 marathon or half a marathon. Anybody, any one of you can run 13.1 miles on nothing but water. I mean, you can do that. It's when you do what we call ultra marathon, meaning 50 miles, 75 miles. That's when you need really nutrition in order to replace what you lose, replace the calories, replace the water, replace the electrolyte. That's where it counts. I mean, 13 miles is a warm-up for most people who are healthy and in good shape.
What about, I know structurally, my joints, I was a better runner in my 20s and 30s, 40s, now 50s. I'm feeling it around my joints about.
Well, that's the issue. I do not run on hard surface. I do not pound the pavement or the asphalt. Most of my running is on trails because I don't want to avoid the damage to my ankles, my knees, my back. But at the same time, if you are healthy throughout your life, if you follow our instructions, then you will not have the osteoarthritis, meaning arthritis in the knee. That's really, you will not have high blood pressure. You will not have issue to deal with. So your body is prepared. So the only time I'm on a hard surface, it's during the Ironman because there is no other way. But I do ultra. I go beyond 26.2 miles, doing 50K, 50 miles, 75K, and even 100K. So I've done 100 miles twice. I will never do it again because you go through the night and you're in somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you can easily get lost. You can fall and injure yourself. And between those two, the aid stations, where they provide you with a lot of water, electrolytes, some food to carry on. But if you do not have to do that, I mean, you don't need that much really calories. I mean, to do a marathon, a full marathon, you need about 2,400 calories. Mm-hmm. That's it. Well, every one of us has tons of calories. Even the thinnest one of us, yeah. I mean, you have about 10%, 15%, 20% fat in your body. You have enough to do 10 marathon without needing any extra.
So when the Kenyans and the Ethiopians, who are the best marathon runners in the world right now, when they prepare for the marathon, whether it be Houston, New York, the Olympics, whatever, what do they eat in the week prior to racing, or
Number-
what should they eat? I should say.
Number one, they're healthy. They do that. You cannot go from nothing to doing almost 13 miles an hour, and finish like yesterday, like on Sunday, and finish in 2 hours 6 minutes and a few more seconds. So you are prepared. They're in the best of shape possible. So their body is efficient, meaning you need less food. Actually, as a matter of fact, food is necessary. Without it, we cannot live. But at the same time, too much food to a lot of digestions, and especially the bad kind of food, bad kind of oil, bad kind of fat, bad kind of meat. I really would recommend that we eliminate sugar from our diet, that we eliminate red meat from our diet.
Completely, no red meat whatsoever.
No red meat, because that's what creates the advanced glycation and product. Processed meat, oh my God, sausage.
What about chicken and pork?
But well, if you do it once every other week, and you pick up the pasture chickens, which are really outside in the open, they do whatever they please. They see the sun, they feel the wind, and they're healthy. So if you like meat, if you like, I love red meat. If you say I love red meat and I can't do without it, then get at least cows that are slaughtered that were just a week ago or a few days ago in the pasture, doing whatever they feel like it.
Myself and you, me being Jewish and you being Muslim, we're not going to we're going to touch the pork. What about Peter? What if Peter wants to have to eat the pig?
Again, I wouldn't recommend that from a health reason, not from a religious reason. I wouldn't recommend it.
And what so on a typical day that you would recommend to our listeners, what would you tell them how they should start eating?
I personally, because calorie restrictions is extremely helpful. You see, when we went through before the agricultural revolution, we had the summer, we had the spring, where things were rosy, where we could find some food. To tell you the truth, at that time, a whole year, any hunter and gatherer, I think we're more gatherer than hunters, because before we even start producing weapons to cut things, to kill things, we were just mostly gatherer. What did we eat when gatherer? We just starved most of the time. You are very lucky if during the fall or close to the fall and you run across a patch of berries. And you're very lucky that you have a hunter and gatherer man. A whole year had 1 teaspoon of sugar if they're lucky to see some fruit. But right now, a child today, in one drink, they have 35 teaspoons of sugar. 35 teaspoons of sugar. That's madness. That's madness. So now, I really caution people about eating too much fruit. If you want to eat fruit, you eat the fruit in their seasons. Because in fruit, we were talking about advanced glycation of end products. In the glucose, the fructose is really the advanced. Multiply by 7 the glycation. We want to avoid that. But you can eat every day, any day, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and to a lesser extent, strawberries.
Why to a lesser extent strawberries?
Because it has a higher level of fructose.
We'll be back in 60 seconds. Welcome back to LT20. Peter's got an amazing question that relates to his personal thing. You can call us at any time you want, and we'll give you the number and the email to call us if you have any questions. Peter, go ahead. Tell us about your family situation.
Yeah, so back to my father's situation. He died of Parkinson's at 81, and I've always felt, and probably most people out there feel, that it's genetic, and I don't want to go down the same path. And I feel like sometimes I forget things and I'm like, wait a second, is this something similar happening to me, like the way it happened to my father? So
I forget things at 70, 72, 62 on Facebook. He forgets things at 83. I can answer that one, Doc.
Of course you can. Of course you can. We all have the experience. I think the genetic is there. There is no question about it. But what part of the genetic we activate through our action or inaction? I think the as I was talking about the advanced glycation end product, and I know it's a big word, but it's, well, I put A, capital G, capital E, and small s. That's what I'm talking about. If you consume those elements that are rich in AGES, then you're gonna cause that issues with food. So the genetic, as I mentioned, is there. But the epigenetic, this is the best discovery in the history of science, the history of mankind, that allows us to now be free of our genetics and control what part of our genetic we can activate and what part of our genetic we can suppress. Through we have histone, we call them histone. These are beads in the chromosome, and they really they control. They can really deactivate the bad genes by rolling them and hiding them from being visible to the expression of those genes. So if they hide those, then those genes will not be expressed. So that's where I go back to. Even genetic can be eliminated through the epigenetic.
that's great news.
It is a great news. Really, it is a great news. That's what gives us the freedom, because I believe in God. I'm a God fearing person. I believe deeply in the creativeness of this universe. And God gave us that ability. We didn't know about it until about 15, 20 years ago. Nobody knew about epigenetic until we formulated that and we proved that in the lab through experiments.
So what Dr. Fustok is telling you is that it's time to change your evil ways. It's time to stop your children from eating nasty milk, Kellogg's cereals, Burger King, McDonald's, all that junk food, and you can turn not only your life around, but your entire family's life around. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Welcome back to LT120. Doc, before we continue, can you explain the definition of epigenetic?
Epigenetic.
On a very, very small form that a junior high school student can understand.
Okay. Epigenetic is very simple. I just want to take the example. I'm going to take the example of a teenager pregnancy. A pregnant teenager is having a hard time. She doesn't feel like she's loved. She doesn't feel like she's in control of her actions. And that whatever happened to that mother, any mother whatsoever, what's happening to a mother, what she's eating, how she's feeling, whether she's stressed or not stressed, all of that information that is in her mind and in her action get transmitted to the fetus. So the fetus in the womb is aware of his mother's distress or happiness, love or non-loved, caring or not being cared for. That's how early it starts. That's how early it starts. And really it is, the society as a whole, now I'm getting to be philosophical, professorial, as my friend Ira says, but you have to understand that we are a society, we are a collectivity. I take my brain, for example. Every one of you, every single one of you is born with either 80 to 100 billions neurons, meaning cells cells in your brain you can think with, between 80 and 100 billion. That's a lot of those neurons that we can think of. Now, if you don't know, those neurons are activated inside the mother's womb. All right. So when that child is born with lack of love, lack of empathy, lack of care, even inside his or his mom's womb, they know whether they're going to be well received or it's hard out there. Boy, don't get out of here.
The junior high school definition of epigenetic is
actions or inaction, stress or lack of stress, good food or lack of good food. I want you, if you are a
throughout
teenager,
your life, from the time that you were conceived until
you're
now.
born. You go from being aquatic creature into an air-breathing teacher. When you get out there, you already has a lot of either good stuff or you're way behind and you think you have no chance. And these people who have, they are born through teenager. I'm not blaming teenagers' pregnancy. What I'm saying is they're not prepared mentally. You see, one of us, every one of us, the brain doesn't get completely completed until the age, between the age of 20 to 25. That's where there is a part of your brain right here behind your forehead, which is called prefrontal lobe. This is frontal lobe, but the prefrontal doesn't get developed, and that allows you to do multitasking evaluation, that allows you to take intelligent action, that allow you to avoid bad actions. That doesn't get completely matured until the age between 22 to 25 years. So you teenagers, you think you know everything. I thought so when I was 14, 15, 16. I thought my parents were completely ignorant, that I knew everything. But you don't. You're not fully equipped to make intelligent decision, to weigh things and then come up with a decision. So that's what the epigenetic does. So the epigenetic is, you're not fully mature until that prefrontal lobe is developed.
But once the frontal lobe is developed, and during that process, you're not saying that they're condemned for making bad decisions the rest of their life. They can change it immediately.
That's exactly right. If you can change your epigenetic, and even though you may be way, way behind when you're born compared to somebody who's born in a very happy family, and everybody is expecting you to be born, and when you're born, they're very happy. You're surrounded by happiness. You're surrounded by care. I have a granddaughter now. She is a year and a half, and she's nothing. She's not afraid. She whenever she sees even strangers, she's smiling, and she's so that is different from you're born, you're alone, your mother is stressed.
Let's take a break. We're back here in LT 120. Let's talk about, you have a young child, and you were talking about what your young child. Did you want to talk about something else? We can talk about something else.
Yeah, I mean, this relates to everything. You were talking about, basically, it's a state of mind. It comes from within, having a good mind, good spirit. I think all that helps. And so I try to instill in my kids I give them as much love and support as I can, and I think that helps as well. But as most kids do these days, they like their chicken nuggets, they like their fast food, they like all the I'm hoping that they grow out of that phase. But right now they're in pure development, so I try to steer them away as much as possible. But
that's the key question, Doc. Will they grow out of that phase, or do you have to push them out of their phase?
I think you can do something at home. Number one, not to have any sugary stuff, and any cake, any sugar, actual sugar in the house. You should eliminate that from your household in order to. I mean, right now, my granddaughter, the last one, is her family, and based on my instruction to them, do not feed her any sweet stuff because we become addicted to it. You see, if you look at your tongue, it's that long. I mean, it's an inch and a half. That's where your taste buds are. And sweetness is addictive more than, sour, more than salty. I know even salty is addictive as well. So we get addictive to what we do every day, what we eat every day, what we taste every day. I compare one Chinese child to an American child. If you introduce, now we're invading the planet with our stuff, with our Coke, with our sugary drinks. We really are poisoning. Before the Americans were in Japan, the average age a girl will get to her age of procreation was 18. Now, you know what that age is? About 8 or 9, just like in the US. And the longer that takes, the less exposed to all the hormones that are embedded in our food, like McNugget, like the chicken nugget, and what's chicken nugget? They're not even food. Okay, so there is a dominant fast food culture in our country, and we have to change that.
I remember,
and one person at a time.
I remember listening to a program on 60 Minutes about 2 years ago. There's an island off the coast of Australia, and everybody on this island was extremely, extremely fit and healthy. And then what happened was oil was discovered. What happens when oil is discovered? The Americans come in, the English come in, the Russians come in, the Chinese come in. And what happens when all those 4 groups come in? They bring in their favorite foods. They bring in the sandwiches, they bring in the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the fast food. And Dr. Fustok doesn't want to marry, but I'm not scared to knock these people. But the McDonald's, the Blimpies, the Burger Kings, all these junk foods. The English did the same thing. The Russians did the same thing, and the Chinese did the same thing. 60 Minutes went back 2 years later. There's nothing but diabetes and fat pigs on the island. Everybody on the island, there was like no exceptions whatsoever, were sick. So what Dr. Fustok is telling you, if you don't do the elimination of sugars and the elimination of fast food, you're going to wind up in Houston at MD Anderson. You're going to wind up at the Texas Heart Institute.
I just want to approach the topic of milk. You see, 2,000 years ago, there was a mutation in the cows in Europe, and the mutation was change the protein of the cows from casein 2 to casein 1. From casein 2 to casein 1. Casein 1 is a huge protein molecules. And what it does, our digestive system cannot digest that casein 1. So now, when you drink milk, number one, have you ever seen a mammal once weaned from the mother's milk to go and then another mammal start suckling? They don't do that naturally because they're equipped to know that the milk phase in their life is over and you go back to different things. Here, because of the milk industry, we produce a lot more milk than any nation on the face of the planet. And that then we associate milk drinking with health. Milk drinking with health. Now, I do use milk in the morning, put a little bit of cream, and that's not good, but I do it. But I use goat milk because it's casein 2, not casein 1.
Would go to your Wikipedia or go to any one of the internet. And the difference between casein 1 and casein 2, and Dr. Fustok, please correct me if I'm stating this wrong. casein 1 cows are in the United States. If you can get a cow over in India, if you get a cow over on the other side of the world that hasn't been destroyed by the mutations in the United States, then you got a shot. But other than that, stay away from that junk. Kellogg cereals, Google how Kellogg started. All they're selling your children is junk, processed food junk. And Kellogg's isn't the only one. Each one of those cereals that you're feeding your children, you're basically poisoning them.
It really is the milk. The milk is good if you're using, again, why we can avoid using casein. Now we started in this country importing casein 2 cows from New Zealand, from Australia. So there is a change taking place because of the science that we now know about the difference between the two. So it's really, you need to avoid milk in general, but if you like to add milk, well, use casein 2 or use almond milk. So that would be better for your health.
This is the end of this week's podcast of LT 120. Thank you, Peter, for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Fustok, and we'll see you next week on LT 120.